what is safe space? How do you create safe space for yourself? It's not in your control. And yet you are here working. How can a woman ensure her basic things are safe? Is it just like what is talked about of, oh, you need to be aware of this, you need to be careful of this, don't do that, don't do this? Or what should be done for a mass of women to come? Like,
see, yeah, that's a very deep question, a very important question. I mean, how do you ensure that the workspace is safe for women who want to work? A, issue of choice. There's no choice, then nothing else follows from there, right? But I feel that putting all the burden on the woman
it's not fair.
Is not fair.
We should change that narrative.
Right?
Yes.
So that narrative means you are responsible for your own security. What should you do? What should you know? What awareness should you have? The system should also provide this, and then leadership comes in. Here the governance comes in. Whether it's corporate governance or in the public sector, it's the same, right? So leaders have to think about these things, and leaders will not think about these things if they are, saddled in their own or, bogged down by their own unconscious biases. But if you're actually talking of women and you are wanting women to come into the public space, you have to provide safe public spaces. Otherwise, who leaves a home to get into trouble? Nobody does. Why should the woman then leave the home? Not that homes are absolutely safe. You have domestic violence also. We just spoke about it, right?
Homes are the worst, you're saying?
I won't say worst, but they are not also absolutely safe spaces. Like many of the domestic means what? It means home related, right? Many of these POCSO cases are happening at homes and being done by people whom the child trusts. Maybe relatives, maybe very close relatives. So that is one thing. But if you are expecting, and it has been proved in so many studies that when women step into the workforce, the GDP goes up. All these studies, equity. They're talking of profit also. They've seen it in companies and corporations and all. So that part is set in stone. It will. But then how do you kind of, cajole, how do you kind of nudge women to come into this workspace? You have to provide these safe spaces. And here leadership matters. Leaders have to understand that, and especially now that women are coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. They are not so aware of, the pitfalls and the traps. So they have to be made aware. And then leadership, they have to go a little bit out of the way to provide safe spaces within the workspace. Small things like providing transportation when a woman has to stay back late in the office. Small things like making the POSH Act work where it is needed to work and not shying away, even if the perpetrator is head of the organization. And believe me, the Act has inbuilt safety because many men, I also take these, trainings on. So many men told me it's completely against men. I said, no, read it carefully. If the woman is making false allegations, she can be subjected to the same punishment which the perpetrator can be subjected. So it's not one-way ticket, right? So these laws are there. We have to make them work. So providing safety. And then the biggest thing is, a culture of growing a culture of equity and equality, a culture of inclusivity. You have to make that a part of the DNA of the organization. You can't think in a discriminatory manner because you can't hold back 50% of the population and think there will be progress.
But if you don't even know what one needs over there, How can you create that? You might just be a number. It might just become a number game. Oh, we have 50% women, 40%
That's the
women.
problem. So women also have to speak up if they are having problems, but leadership has to give that safe space to speak up. The woman shouldn't be able to think that, okay, if I speak up, my promotion will be held back. I'll be pointed out, oh, look, she spoke up. So, and this won't come in a day. It won't come. It takes effort. Unconscious bias. I've traveled, years back. I was traveling in one of the Indigo flights. So at that time, this girl power thing was, pretty new. So I was going through their magazine, that in-flight magazine. And then I suddenly heard that today your captain and the second in command, and both were names of women. Years back, right? For a moment, I thought, oh my God, what will happen if something, some emergency comes up? And then immediately, it was a kind of mental slap which I gave myself that, look, you are working on these issues and this is how you're thinking. Now, I come from a very empowered family, right? Empowering background. But see where these unconscious biases come in. So, you have to be introspective also. Like I said, you have to ask yourself, where am I going wrong? As a leader, you have to. You have to have resilience. You have to have openness. You have to learn to fail. And this is for every woman, for every person here, whoever is listening. You must know how to fall. You must know how to get up. And as a woman, you have to dust that, dust your back or clothes, put on your crown and then move ahead.
A guy who is 21, probably stepping out, irrespective of what background he's grown in, what's an advice to be an ally in this process of change? What are things one needs to think of?
Number one, we need to understand that equality benefits everybody. It's not just the woman who is benefited by. And this is something which has, grown where woman is seen as a receiver of all the things. Recipient, a beneficiary. Man, she can also contribute. Why don't you see her as an investment? But don't put roadblocks. So for that guy who is coming out as an ally, first of all, he needs to understand this, right? That we are equal partners in progress. We are equal partners in developing this organization. And then not to discriminate, call out people who discriminate. So these are the things, these are the feelings, these are the, feelings with which he should step into the world. And then there is magic, I tell you. There's so much of peace in your work. There's so much of happiness. And happiness leads to productivity. We all talk of EQ now. Now, this is a big part of EQ.